I'm okay. How about you? You
Can't.
feeling better?
I felt a lot better. I feel a lot better.
Feeling better? You got your voice back. You got your phone back. Can't tell you nothing, huh?
Oh, you can't tell me anything right now. I'm good. I'm in full motion. I'm ready to rock and roll.
That's good. That's good. It's when you're not feeling good and your systems are out of commission, it's a challenge sometimes to
Yeah, not feeling good and you don't have your technology to help you along the way, it makes it a lot
mm-hmm.
worse. So I'm happy to report that I have all my stuff functioning. Mhm.
Good. Good to know. You're back to 100. I'm happy to hear that. what you um what you working on this week? How's everything
Um,
with the skyrocketing rates snowballing hour after hour, it seems like now.
you know what? It's been a roller coaster, but it's still some good signs this week. I posted I got a few FHA deals surprisingly came out the woodworks, and I was told that these people have accepted offers, and haven't seen many of those come through as often as before. So it's a good sign. So I'm optimistic with what's going to happen with the second quarter. There's some that are still very pessimistic, but I'm still optimistic. I think, like you.
It's early. It's early in the game.
But to me, I feel like if you continue to focus and you do the work that's supposed to be made,
hmm
it's understood that there's going to be a cycle. If you expect that every year you're going to make X, your salary is going to be through the roof X, then sales is not for you. You got to understand that's why
Yeah.
they say when the times are good, put some aside. And when things are
Yeah.
not good, then you can tap into that. So, again, I've been doing this for so long, and it's just trying to figure it out and be a bit more frugal right now if necessary, and
hmm
then you're gonna weather the storm, and then we'll be right back. It's a cycle. It happens every couple years, so I'm ready for it.
Yeah, and you have to stick it out because especially like I forget the name, but it was one big mortgage company that laid off hundreds one week and then or was it thousands? It might have been thousands one week and then the next week they came back and said they were laying off even more people. So you have people that are just in it for the money. It's like not really their passion. And so if they're doing like you said, just expecting to ride this wave, all the way, all the time, it's definitely not gonna work out for you. So it's good for us that have longevity, have been in the game for decades, and know how to stick it out. But people that are not really trying to help people and see it through, they're not going to last. So I'm pretty sure a lot of those people that were laid off will probably find some other career. If it's really not their passion, because with everything on a decline now, refinancing and um, loan applications, you really have to love what you're doing in this business right now.
Yeah, if you think this is like, I mean, I hear some people say that they do real estate part time and, mortgage lending part time. It's just hard. Like you said,
hmm
you have to be all in because our job is service. If we're not available, we can't offer that service. So, like you said, the weaker will eventually fade away, and the people that are truthful to this industry are going to last. And
Yeah.
constantly, right? I see you every single day working on other things, finding ways to reinvent yourself, right? Because if you stop reinventing yourself, you become Blockbuster,
hmm
right? Blockbuster is no longer around. So
hmm
making sure that we can continue to evolve. And these are the things that keep me up at night. These are the things that I'm researching. These are things that I'm, researching and ping pong and throwing stuff, darts against the wall, trying to see what sticks. And if something bites, how do I manifest that? How do I make that more? Brainstorming.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Literally a couple of months before we got on, I put a post about people that you work with and you're either hiring or you're networking with. Your circle has to always be learning and evolving, because if they're not seeking out knowledge and ways to better themselves, then how are they going to better you and be of service to you in your partnership or whatever type of relationship that you have? You always have to be learning. You
You
never
know,
know everything.
Great point. And that just goes into like life in general. Like you'll find that if someone does not offer, like anything productive in my life, and I'm a homebody. Naturally, I'm a homebody, but
Mm-hmm.
I like to go out and I like to socialize, but I like to socialize with like-minded individuals. Like I have this one buddy of mine that is very like-minded. My wife was like, "Why do you talk to him so much?" Because he understands me, right? He's like, "You talk to him more than you talk to me," but he understands me. If I need to kind of get something across,
Mm-hmm.
like he can finish my sentence, and we're like, "Wow, we're trying to do the same thing. We're building on the same level." And
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing better than that, to have someone that fully understands your vision and is like-minded. And like when we speak, we can talk for days before we even
Mm-hmm.
get on the platform of what we need to really be talking about. We
Mm-hmm.
have the same vision of growth and development and getting ourselves situated for not just in the short term, but more in the long term. And these are the discussions that I love to have.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. Even like you said, it doesn't necessarily have to be business in your personal relationships as well. That could really tell you what your future is going to be like with a friend, a buddy, someone that's going to be your significant other. You ask them questions about what their goals are, what they've done, recently. I was being funny, but I was being serious. I said, when you ask someone what book they read last, ask them when that was, because you have people that say, oh, I read such and such, but that might have been 5 years ago. So many things have changed in 5 years that it may still be, some principles that they can carry, but more than likely, a lot of things could be outdated depending on what that book is and what they learned and how they're going to apply it in the future. So you always have to, sharpen your knife and be able to sharpen others' knives as well.
And you
Yeah.
know what it is? Sometimes we got to accept that some people are just not good for us in general, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's in a relationship, whether it's in life, whether it's in business, or even someone who wants to do business with you. They say, Patrice, I want to work with you, but you got to look at it like, you know what? In business, you're just not a good partner for me, or you're not a good friend. You're not a
Mm-hmm.
good, you know, whatever. Because
Mm-hmm.
I've had discussions with individuals, and I realized they don't have my best interest in mind. So why should I continue to engage with them? Do they want to see me win? I want to see them win. I want to see everyone win. But if you don't,
Mm-hmm.
someone else that you're speaking to, sharing personal stuff with, does not want to see you win, it's pointless.
Yeah. And you can see when people are genuine and you can see when they're being fake. And it's funny that they think that they have this facade on when they're not genuine that you can't see past. And
Mm-hmm.
even if you're not a person, how people say I read people well, even if you can't read people well, that lack of genuine concern for the other person or their best interest, eventually it's going to come out anyway, whether, they see it in the first 10 seconds of your conversation or it takes 10 weeks. Sometimes, unfortunately, it could take 10 years for some people, but it will come out at some point. And it's just going to have them have a different, see you in a different light, a different perspective of you, and not only you, but everything around you too. So those are things you have to keep in mind when dealing with people. And I understand what you mean. I didn't take on a client yesterday, actually, a listing. As much as we need listings in this market, it just wasn't a right fit for their expectation and what I provide. And sometimes you have to say no.
Yeah.
But you may think that it's going to hurt you immediately when it happens, but in the long run, I think being in this business so long, you realize that your mental peace is worth a lot more than a check. So you definitely have to know when to say no.
On the flip side, on a more humorous side, right? So I always say, like, when I hear people are in a relationship and they say, well, I found out I don't really like someone. Like you mentioned, I'm like the speed dater. I'm the speed dater. When I go in, I go in. Like, I'll ask the questions and I'm building rapport. We're trying to get to know each other. I leave that first date or that
Mm-hmm.
first meeting, like, I feel like I know a lot about that person. I remember
Are
I
you
used to do open
listening?
houses with realtors, and sometimes,
Damn.
open houses with realtors, being a realtor at the time. Not now, when you have like 30, 40 people waiting outside.
No, it'd
It
be
would
three
be
hours of silence.
yeah, it'd be 3 hours of silence, and you really got to have that long elevator pitch to really kind of keep a conversation. And I'm telling you, I was able to kind of go and I had a realtor one time divulge so much and she cried, hugged it out. You get a chance to build and ask so many questions deeply. And
Mm-hmm.
I walked in there not expecting to tell her that much or she told me that much. You
Mm-hmm.
just never know. But you got to ask the right questions to really get to know someone. If you're scared to ask the right questions, then whose fault
That's
is it?
not a good fit already then.
Same thing like with a realtor or a lender. If a client says, "Well, I think I have child support," and you don't dive into that, you don't find out what the payments are or the bankruptcy questions, then it's kind of my fault that I didn't ask the right probing questions to really get down to the nitty gritty of what's going on. Same thing, on the agent side. The client says, "I'm not ready to buy now." Now may not be 4 years from now, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's good information that you'd want to know if they're referencing to 4 years or you're referencing to 2 or 3 months.
Yes, yes. Questions and consultations are very, very important. And it's always funny when agents, I see sometimes in Facebook groups or whatever, and they'll be like, I got a call to go meet somebody at this property, and I just went, and I'm like, so you didn't ask them one question? You have no idea what their lifestyle is, what they're looking for. Just because they want to see that house doesn't necessarily mean that that house is for them. But in asking questions, you could ask them things like, how do you feel about flooring? If it's carpet head to toe, top to bottom, and they have asthma, allergies, something that they don't, want carpet for, then you just wasted your time showing if they're not prepared to spend the money to replace all the flooring top to bottom. So asking questions, sometimes business wise, finance wise, and then personal lifestyle wise, really helps you get to know people, and either on a personal level or to service them, in whatever they've come to you for.
Yeah, I'm an introvert. I would call myself an introvert, but when I find like someone that has energy like mine, I can talk for days. But
Mm-hmm.
having the right energy to bring the extrovert side of me out. But naturally, I think I'm more a reserved person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. They say extroverted introverts. It's because like once we get into it, with our own little circle, there's no stopping us.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll see me around family sometimes. I'm having a good time, and you'll see me in
Mm-hmm.
another social setting and not as social, but then you'll see me around a group in that same social environment, very talkative and very active,
Mm-hmm.
but go into another room and not be as much. I'm like my son's the same way. He'll walk somewhere, he's very like observant, he'll watch you, feel you out, and
Mm-hmm.
eventually, he'll open up and I'll do the same. I think he definitely got it from me. So
Mm-hmm. It's funny too. You said the energy. Sometimes people will say, "Oh, you seem like such and such. You seem like you're so quiet. You seem like this. You seem like that." And then you ask someone else that knows that person, and they're like, "Who? Them? Quiet? When?" It's
yeah, right.
like
Two
they're
different
never quiet.
perspectives.
You just don't know them. You have to get to know them. So that's key to the energy that you get, because you can have two completely different descriptions of the same person depending on who you're talking to and what they or that circumstance that you met them under brings out of them.
Like people say, "Hey, Gene, you're so serious. You're serious." I'm like, I mean, I want to carry that. I'm serious, but you ask anyone in my family, like, this guy's a jokester at the table.
Uh-huh.
Guys making us all laugh and joking at each
Mm-hmm.
other. So, like you said, depends on getting to know that person on that level.
Yep, yep. I think that's very important too, which is why when I deal with clients and they ask for referrals for maybe an inspector or, someone else, I don't just like some agents will just send them their list of, who they have on their roster of everybody. And I don't do that. I go through to see who I think will fit their needs, their lifestyle, their energy, the vibe that they have. I'm not going to send somebody who is an extrovert, A-type personality demanding to somebody that is the complete opposite. It's not going to work. They're not going to feel like they're being, treated fairly as a client. And so that's another thing that you have to consider when you refer people is that energy, and make sure that that's a good match, because you can do a superb job, but if that energy doesn't match that person, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, and that's kind of why, like, I like the old school mentality. I like to have a lunch. I like to have a face to face because you know why it's so important. It speaks to the person's character. It speaks to the fact that I'm looking Patrice in her eye. So when I
Mhm.
refer a client, I'm like, man, that client's gonna be in great hands because I can speak of the character, not what I've seen on social media, but I can actually
Mhm.
speak to the character of that person, their integrity. I can speak of the way they carry themselves, family, the way they speak. You learn so much in speaking to someone on a face to face. Social media is the next best thing, being on Zoom like this, seeing each other face to face. But
Hmm.
that in person, to me, that's why they say the world is going to change. There's still a need for that face to face. There's still a need for that human touch, and I don't think we can ever get away from that, or at least I can't.
Yeah, I'm actually doing a deal now with a what we would call older agent. She's a broker only, and she has been probably 30, 40 years in the business. And she's one of those old school, you're not going to text and get a response from her. She will email you. But I just happened to pick up the phone and call her one day because I just realized that, getting an immediate response through technology just wasn't working out. And I was able to see that property under some strange circumstances where you couldn't normally see it, and see another property that she didn't even have listed yet, because she just knew the owner and had a relationship with the owner, and was able to get a deal on the off market property just from simply picking up the phone and talking to her. Which I said, it's funny, a lot of agents, they don't like to do that. A lot of people don't like to do that. They don't want to pick up the phone and just have a conversation. And granted, it's not necessary to call all the time, but there are some times where, just like you said, that human touch, it can go a long way, and it ended up getting me a deal. So
Yeah, I
proof
have
is in
some
the
clients.
pudding.
It's a good point you make, because one of the things I tell my office, there are some buyers that come in, they're just not going to be, even though they use technology, they're not going to respond through email. You'll send them an email to say, "Hey, Gene, what do I need?" You have to call them. You
Hmm.
have to call them. You got to explain it to them. You have to tell them when the email went out, and I'll code the loan according to, like, this is going to be not an email person. This is going to be a phone call person.
Hmm.
So you got to pick up the phone call. If you need something, don't just rely. So you come back 3 days later. Hey, did you ever hear back? No, they never responded to the email. Well, they're not.
Hmm.
Try calling them to see if they received it, and because every time I call, they answer. So you
Hmm.
have to pick up the phone as well and call. That goes a long way.
Yeah, that's the thing about being in the service business. You have to serve people the way that works for them, kind of like, the love languages.
Oh,
You have to
absolutely.
do what's best for them. And if you like to do one thing, but they want something else, it's not going to transfer over to them and get good results because you're not speaking in their language. So
Absolutely.
you
Because
definitely have to ask what their preferred method of communication is so that a deal can go smoother. And even agents, I see agents complaining, I text them, they never text me back. Well, if the showing instructions said you have to go to this link online to fill out the form to submit the offer, then no, they're not going to text you back. So you have to, follow the instructions that the client or the people that you're working with give you to reach out to them.
yeah, just to kind of switch gears a little bit, we've been talking about this famous question, lesson learned. Was there
Yeah.
was there a lesson learned this weekend or this
Yeah,
week?
I think talking to that older broker owner lady, I think that was definitely my lesson learned, that it's okay for me to still be old school. I don't have to, go into the trends of being, not a good communicator over the phone and only using text or only using email. It was definitely a lesson learned. And there's a stigma with older agents and people that have been in the business, that they're set in their ways, and sometimes they are, because actually the client that was selling the property, he was set in his ways too. And so you have to give people what they want to make them happy. So that was definitely a lesson learned, because it ended up benefiting the client. So what
Trying to
about you?
trying to figure if I had a ha-ha moment this week where I had a lesson learned.
Mm-hmm.
I think what I would say I learned, or maybe I relearned, is sometimes you get distracted in your own personal confidence and what you can do and what can deliver, and you get away from doing what made you great. So I think
Mm-hmm.
I relearned that lesson to focus on what's important, right? So focus on the people that matter the most, or the people that have referred you. How do we stay more in contact? So just not looking for the quantity, but looking for the qualities of relationships and maintaining
Absolutely.
those, cultivating them. Because I look at it like this: if you have a good group of agents that give you a certain amount of business, or whether it's family, friends, builder, attorney, at some point you have to ask yourself, what's enough, or how much can I truly handle? And if you cultivate a relationship and a realtor or a referral partner sent you to, the mindset should not be how do I get another realtor. The mindset could be how do I get that two referral partner from 2 to 4 or 4 to 6. Is there an interest there? So focusing more on fine tuning those relationships,
Mm-hmm.
I think other opportunities come from just those developments, and I'm just focusing my energy to kind of look at those immediate core people.
That's good because they say it's easier to maintain the current clients that you have than to go and seek out new ones. Um, and it's true. You have so much energy that you have to put into going to meet someone new and establish a new relationship, getting to relearn things about or learn things about them that you don't know, and vice versa. But when you have an established relationship, you don't have to go through all those steps. You just, it's like talking to an old friend you haven't spoken to in a couple of months or a couple of years. You just pick up the phone and you're right back where you left off. So there's no uncomfortable feeling. You're at ease. It feels like home. So
And
that's
you think
definitely
about it,
true.
like when you do your CRM and you have like 1,000 people in your CRM
Mm-hmm.
that you're not doing anything with,
Mm-hmm.
and you go out to try to get more, but you're not even
Mm-hmm.
maximizing on what's already on your lap.
Yep.
Right? Like it's weird. Like see people trying to do other things, but you haven't even fully leveraged what's available to you. You haven't even maximized that. Until you maximize what you have,
Mm-hmm.
truly, how can you truly move on to the next opportunity?
And that's true because, like you mentioned before, you ask someone if they're ready to buy, and like you said, it could be 4 years from now. You know, agents will get upset when they see somebody that they met go with another agent. But if they haven't heard from you in 4 years, then why would they, remember you? There are tons of us. There's tons of people, and there's tons of real estate professionals. So they may have met someone new. They may have just happened to be contacted by someone else more than you. So it's true that you do have to continue to maintain the relationships that you cultivated so that just to keep up with the person and know what's going on with them. And then they'll be more keen on coming to you for whatever, they need whenever they need it.
It's so funny. We all know it, but it's like, do we do it? For example, if you get a client and you send a client a message, you first meet them, send them an email. You do a follow up phone call, and then 3 days later you do another follow just to check. Any client that I call that consistently, that I follow up with, the chance of them shopping me or looking to someone else, the probability goes down so low.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the name of the game is if I'm looking for others and I'm not really following up with this person consistently and meeting their needs, I may lose that opportunity to what you mentioned. They may find another lender or another real estate agent that may kind of come in and give them that service that maybe you could have given, but you didn't.
Yeah. And I think too, people can pick up, like I was talking about earlier, being genuine. People can pick up if, you just call somebody one time or text somebody or email somebody one time and then they don't hear from you again, or, for a long time and you're not consistent with your follow-up, like you just said, they know that you really care about them and what they have going on. Sometimes there's instances where there are people that I'm not able to help. They're not able to buy or they're not able to sell. And I still reach out to them even after the fact, years after the fact. I have this one client who the husband passed away shortly after closing. It's been, I want to say 5 years now. I call her every year on on his anniversary death, on their anniversary. She's moved on to Delaware now, and she's always like, when are you going to come see me? there's absolutely nothing that I can get from her. I'm not licensed in Delaware, but I just always, want to make sure that she knows that she is thought of and cared about. And she's just the sweetest person. And so there's no reason for me not to continue to communicate with her.
That's priceless to be
Hmm.
able to do that and maintain that. But the problem is we can't always do that, right? So we
Yeah.
gotta have like systems that are still in
Hmm.
place to maybe remind you 6 months from now to do it.
Hmm.
Because as you grow your book of business, you have thousands and thousands of people. So there's still ways to still kind of give that human touch,
Hmm.
but you have to have systems around it to keep you organized to know when you're supposed to make these calls and when you're supposed to email them, when the birthdays are, when the anniversaries are.
Hmm.
So we need that as part of
Yeah.
our business.
It's a lot to keep up. Some people can't even keep up with their own, family members and anniversaries and birthdays and all of that. So you definitely need some assistance. And it's okay. No one is expecting people to know everything and remember everything, all the time. But just, even if it's just once a year, you reach out to let them know you thought about them, on their birthday, or, you remember that they liked, I don't know, a certain boxing person or basketball person or singer, and they came to mind. That's good to let them know that you thought about them. Even there's nothing that you could get out of it,
Yeah.
from them, but just letting them know that they were on your mind.
Yeah, there's no better referral than a past client that
Mm-hmm.
will send me not just like a friend, will send me like their daughter and their
Mm-hmm.
mom and aunt.
Mm-hmm.
That was a very good experience, and they really trust you to kind of make that referral. So it goes a long way.
Those are the best. When you work with family and they refer you throughout the family, you get to see how like the kids grow up and how they've come along through from, you know, crawling when you first met them to now they're, a scholar in their school. It's really good to see the progression, and sometimes having a home really brings out things in kids, especially that they didn't, have that confidence before. So it's really good when you are the family agent or the family lender, and they always come back to you to refinance or refer to somebody else. That it's really a good feeling.
It's
You
just
feel like
unfortunate.
part of the family.
It's unfortunate they don't use like refrigerator tags. Like years ago, I used to see like all type of real estate agent. The magnets that you put in the
Uh-huh, with the
refrigerator.
calendars or the sports calendars. Mm-hmm.
People kept those on their fridges. Like, do you still see that? I don't
Mm-hmm.
see that
I
anymore.
don't, not now, unless it's a very older person, because you know what I think it is? With technology, we have everything in our phones now. So to have a paper calendar in front of you is not as prevalent of a need as it was before. But you have some people that still they like to write things down and see things, they're visual and they like to see things right in front of their face. But I think technology took over the magnets some.
I would say that's one marketing piece because I would go to anyone's house and I would see that person or stranger's face, and you automatically, hey, who's this? Who's that? It was
Mm-hmm.
always marketed right there on their fridge,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess right now there's no real place for it, but I can see that was a big marketing piece that
Yeah.
was used before.
Yeah, definitely. I think so much has changed. Technology can be a gift and a curse, as they say. So one of those things, that the personal touches of the calendars and the Christmas cards, the magnets that you stick on the fridge, all those things are dwindling away as part of the service industry. And I think it's important to know who your client is, because not everyone is technology driven, even, and it's not a millennial thing, a baby boomer thing. It's a personality thing, because there are some people that are in a certain generation, and they prefer technology. And then there are some people that are of the technology age, and they don't even have a social media account. So it's really about learning that person, and that's the key.
That's it, knowing the personnel.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that was a good discussion on service and client relationships, just relationships, period. So we'll think of some other things that are important to talk about in the future for our next session.
Absolutely.